Hello, Sam Walker, OBXnews.com, and we welcome you to a presentation of the February 29th Night with the Candidates at Sanctuary Vineyards in Jarvisburg. Thanks to John Wright for the idea of doing this, and thanks to him for hosting, along with the rest of the staff at Sanctuary Vineyards, for getting things set up for us. And thank you to the candidates who participated running for the Republican nomination in the Currituck County Board of Commissioners races on the March 5th primary ballot. The at-large candidates, Mike Hall and Paul O'Neill. In District 1, Ron Galco and Tony Angel. District 4, Janet Rose and Brian Bass. And District 2, Selena Jarvis and Shay Balance. Balance unable to attend, his fiance having some health issues, so he was not able to participate in the forum. We also had the Republican nominee candidates for Register of Deeds, Natalie Roberts, Twitty, and Emily Castello, who took part. Thanks to everyone who came out, and again, thanks to John Wright and Sanctuary Vineyards for hosting this Night with the Candidates at Sam Walker, OBXnews.com. Thank y'all for coming out tonight. It is most appreciated. If you'll be taking your seats, feel free to take a business card at your table and remind yourself what this is all about, what this is all about. It's not about me, okay? It's not about me, but I'm going to shameless plug time. Sam Walker, OBXnews.com. Thank you all very much for coming out. Just about everybody here at some point seen me from here to here to here and now to here. But thank y'all so much for coming. It really does mean more than I can say for y'all to turn out tonight on such short notice. This was John's idea from the beginning. He threw this. He came to me with the idea of having a forum in a different setting here at the winery, and I'm so glad y'all turned out tonight. Thank you so much. It's greatly appreciated. We've got a lot to get through, a short time to get there. I know you guys are done with this. Yeah. You're done with it, aren't you? Woo! Yeah. Just know it begins again in September.
That's okay.
Sort of. In one race, I think we might have 2 races that are contested. So before we get going, thank you Owen Etheridge for coming tonight, Paul Beaumont. Who else is here, elected officials that are not running tonight? Anybody else? No? Denise, our outgoing Register of Deeds, thank you for being here. Thank you so much. John Snowden is here. John is actively, as you all know at this point probably, actively circulating petitions to become an unaffiliated candidate on the ballot, which is a unique situation here in North Carolina. Done a lot of hard work. Thank you, John, for coming. And again, thank all of you for coming. I know we've got a couple of folks here who said they found out about a couple hours ago and they're undecided. So that's what this was all about. So how this is going to work is I've had a couple people submit questions, send me questions online, even as up to 2 hours ago, that said, hey, throw this at them, see what they say. We've had a lot happen. If you haven't checked it out, please check it out, samwalkerobxnews.com, which is our questions for the candidates. We post 10 questions to our commissioners candidates. We post 6 questions to our Register of Deeds candidates on issues that I thought, and folks that I'm friends with, and some of you weighed in on it to let me know what I should ask. And I know there's other things we didn't get to, and some of that I'm going to talk about tonight. So it's just going to be kind of a discussion thing. There's going to be some one-word answer questions, which will probably make you guys happy. But know that I'm going to tell you, hey, wrap it up. Wrap it up. I need that sign from Chappelle's show. Wrap it up. If you guys get too long-winded. So we really just want, I know you guys are done with talking. I'm done with talking, so we'll let you guys talk. So we're going to begin. I'm just back here because my notes, otherwise I will completely forget. So what I'm going to start with, I think at this point, I don't need to do the whole introduction things. You guys, everybody here knows our candidates. We're just going to get started. If not, I'm sure they have greeted you at some point. So I'm going to start with, because everybody sitting up here is impacted by the situation with the county managers. Whether it's county commissioners are going to decide, who's going to be working for them for the next number of years, and those who work in the offices every day. We've got 2 of them right here. So first, I'm going to start with the commissioners candidates, and just straight up. And Selena, you're going to have to answer this last because you're on the board, but everybody else here is not or has been. Should you have the ability when you are sworn in December, the ability to make the final say on who's the next county manager of Currituck County?
Again, on my call, the answer is yes, we should, because at that point, we're going to have to work with, our style is going to have to work with the new county manager. So I tell you this, the answer is yes. I'll keep it as short as that.
Okay.
We've done it before at the college. We're going to do it here at the county.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ditto.
Yes.
That's my show of hands.
And yes.
Okay.
Real quickly, can I just say
Go
one word
ahead,
about
yeah.
that? Tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, we are having a work session at the courthouse in the conference room. As you go up the steps, it's on the right, not the left like the boardroom. And we will be discussing our strategy forward. So, of course, I have vocally agreed with all of my fellow candidates. Our next county manager should not be seated by our board, which, as you might have heard, has had a little bit of problems in the last few weeks. It's going to be, hopefully, oh, did I say that with dripping sarcasm? I'm so sorry. It's hopefully going to be seated by our next board, whether I'm a part of it or not, I'm going to push for that. So, thank you.
So, Emily and Natalie, you work in the county offices every day. What's the relationship between the commissioners, the county manager, and I tell you, the relationship, professional relationship, how does that work as far as what you guys do as employees of Register of Deeds, but then as the Register of Deeds? Is there I mean, and if you don't want to answer it too detailed, that's fine, but kind of explain that maybe. That's probably better. And Denise, if you have to weigh in, that's fine too. Explain that.
Oh, no.
Okay, all right.
Right here.
For the Register of Deeds office, really the only interaction we have with either of them is the Board of Commissioners does set our hours. Of course, they're responsible for our budget along with the county manager, but that's really about all the interaction we have.
Now, is that?
Ditto.
Okay. So, real quick, and the reason I ask that is because you guys are in the building every day. And what's your take on what's going on? Yeah, well, wait a minute. Now, listen, what's it been like for the employees? What's it been like for the employees this whole situation?
Well, we are in the governmental complex. We're not in the historic courthouse, so we're not having to deal with that day-to-day stuff. So, really, it's been per usual for us.
Okay. Yeah. Same. Okay. All right. Selena, stay right there.
Okay.
We'll kick it back to you guys. I want to know, this was a question that was submitted to me by email. I want to know how the candidates would complete this sentence as it relates to positions of leadership. Compromise is blank.
Always necessary because I'm one of 7. And so it's easy just to say no to something, but if you know you're going to get outvoted, the best thing I feel like I can do is not just sit there and say no, it's to look at the items and the information in the agenda packet and at least make the yes that I'm going to get outvoted on better. And that's what I feel like I've done. It's easy to say no, 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 but I feel like if you go through the agenda packet, and I do, and I spend hours on it, you can help affect change even though you're not going to get everything you want. You can either say no and get nothing, or you can say yes and strike a compromise.
Janet?
I think you definitely have to be able to compromise, especially when you're making decisions that affect the whole county. Decisions that you make may be a good thing for Moyock and not a good thing for Lower Currituck or Corolla or Knott Island or Gibbs Woods. So you have to look at the whole picture and think about, just as children can't always get their way, commissioners can't always have their way either.
I think compromise is very important, but it has to come about because of knowledge. Each district commissioner needs to know the issues, the strengths, the needs within their own district. And then you'll reach compromise because everybody is coming at it from a place of knowledge, and that's where the sweet spot is.
Wanda?
So I always say there's no I in T.
You got to compromise. You got to work with each other. If you can't get along, there's no team. You definitely. I'm on a couple boards now, and you can't take it home with you. Business is business. Personal is personal. Stay off social media. Keep it like it's supposed to be, and you got to work with each other. You definitely got to have a team to compromise and to be a true leader. If you're a leader, you can't say, "Hey, go do this." You need to put your hands in there and do it too. That's how you make a team, and you work together and you compromise. You just work together.
Compromising is required for. Sorry, guys.
Good mic technique. Good mic
I don't
technique.
even need this microphone. So compromising is required for all forms of government. Otherwise, like, if you look into history, that's why we're our own country, because the King of England refused to compromise. We're not a monarchy. We're not a authoritarian government. We have to work with each other. We have to work together to solve the problems that we have.
Right now, our country is so polarized because no one is willing to compromise on anything, and they get in their corner and throw rocks at each other and forget that they're there to serve the people. And the commissioners can do the same thing. However, the commissioners are setting the example here locally, and I would hope that we could work together and compromise. But there's some things you never compromise, and that's your morals and your values and your beliefs. So sometimes you do have to vote no simply because you just can't agree with it. So I'm not afraid to vote no. Just because everybody agrees with it doesn't mean it's right. So yeah, you've got to work together and compromise, but you also got to be ready to stand firm and take what comes at you too, so you don't compromise yourself.
Compromise happens. Remember the numbers 4 and 8. 4. Sometimes you're going to be the leader, you're going to be the follower, you're going to be an individual, you're going to be a team player. That's what all the 7 of the commissioners have got to do, and decide what they need to do it and when. The number 8, there are 7 commissioners. You are the 8th commissioner. We need your input. If I don't have the 8th one, I can't do the other 4, and I can't compromise, and I can't do all my job without you.
All right. Mike, we're going to start with you because the last question is going to go to someone who's on the board right now. What's your take, your individual personal take on what's gone on over the last several months with the Board of Commissioners? And how will you fix it?
Anytime you get near elections, I think people are wondering if they're going to run again, if they're not going to run again, if they're going to win, if they're going to lose. I think with everything going on with the national, the state, and even the local things, we're in a flux. And I would say this has caused some of the problems. How do we fix them? Well, first of all, everybody take a breath. Everybody take a breath, and then also ask, before we start talking in public, I'm not saying hide it or anything else, but before we start, let's ask ourselves, did we ask what the story is? Did we ask both sides of the story? Did we find out what the rules are? And do we follow? And at that point, then, we have to have our meetings out there in the public, and we have to say, all right, here it is, folks. And again, we need input from everybody. And based on that, we have to make the best decision for Currituck. Now, I don't say sacrifice any one individual or don't sacrifice the county, but you've got to make those, and again, I go back to that number 4. You have to decide what you're going to do in those 4. You're going to lead, you're going to follow, you're going to be an individual, you're going to be a team player. And then I also have to say, what did the 8th commissioner say? We can fix it. We can all work together. We will not get along every day together. Learn the difference between friends and associates. Okay, learn the difference. We have a lot of friends out there, but we have associates also. And sometimes you just have to say, enough is enough.
Could you say the question again?
Yeah, so, yeah, sure.
I have that effect.
What's your take on what's gone on over the last couple of months on the Board of Commissioners, and how would you fix it?
My take on what's going on in the last couple months, I'm really sad that it's been aired publicly. I served on a lot of commissioner boards that were made up with a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities, and in the past, whenever we've had a disagreement, we went in the back room and we worked it out, and we didn't air it out in the public. And that's what should have happened, and that's what is going to happen in the future. There is just no need to drag the whole entire county through disagreements amongst people. And I'm not saying who's right or who's wrong. I'm just saying that it should have been settled in the back room. The parties affected, sit down, work it out. You can agree to disagree, but when you go out in that public, you're representing the people of Currituck County, not yourself. And it just would be better if we found a way to handle these type of things without it being aired out in public, because it affects the staff. It affects the people that have business before the county. It affects businesses that are looking to come into the county. It just has a big negative effect, and it's not the way that we should conduct business.
Now, it's going to be different for you guys because none of you have served in public office other than on advisory boards. So I'm interested to hear your take on it.
So, being from the military, if something like this were to have happened in the military, it would be a direct reflection of the leadership. To me, it's distasteful. It shouldn't have happened. Communication should have been better. Leadership should have been better. Inner workings between board members should have been better. There's a lot of places that we can lay the blame at, and I don't think it's at one thing or one person or one event or one item. If I'm elected, leadership, communication, transparency, all of that stuff has to be top notch. Otherwise, you fall back into the same trap that you were that got them there.
So, like I said before, I'm on the fire department board. I'm vice president there of our station, and it's a pretty big deal, and they depend on you, and it goes back to trust. You got to be a team. You can't take it outside in the community. You guys are dependent on these commissioners. They are supposed to be your leaders. So I've kind of tried to stay out of it, but you got to trust each other. You got to have that trust. And I would probably have brought everybody back in that room, like these guys have said. You got to keep this in the board. You got to hash it out. You got to keep business and personal. Just because you don't like what this one says, that's what you're there for. You're not there to agree on everything. You got to bounce it off of each other. So my thing is, I would have pulled everybody back in there, and everybody's going to have something to say about whatever, but you just got to have that trust. So that's my thoughts on that.
Everybody before me has pretty much echoed what I believe, that it should have been done behind closed doors. You hash it out and you reach a consensus. But one thing that we have to remember, because of this, basically governing stopped in Currituck County. We've got a budget to deal with. We've got a 50% tax increase that we're looking at, and we really don't have time for this drama at this point.
Janet, you've got a little different take, a little different view being chairman of the Board of Education, so you're having to work directly with the commissioners right now. Has that changed anything that you'd view as far as your thoughts on it and then what you did to fix it?
Well, I can't really say it's changed everything. I mean, it's no secret that the commissioners and the Board of Education pretty much deal with issues through the county manager and the superintendent. I mean, I'm just saddened with what's gone on in the last couple of months. It is a black mark on Currituck. I've lived here my whole life, and I've never seen anything like it. I've been a resident under several different boards of commissioners, and I don't know who's at fault here. I don't know what the truth is, but somebody's not telling the truth. And it is definitely a negative reflection. Government is not operating as well as it should be.
Selena gets to answer this one the best because she gets to be the one who's...
And everybody's taking a breath like, what is she going to say? I'm going to stand up so I can see everybody.
Sure. All right.
There are two of my fellow commissioners here,
And I'm going to start out by saying I've been with this board since January 16th, 2019. And there are a lot of strong personalities on this board. And I think when you're together, as long as we have been together, conflicts arise because there are things that I've heard from candidates about why they're running, and just conversation with them. If you're in this job for the wrong reasons, it's going to manifest itself in conflict. And I'm not going to throw any of my fellow commissioners under the bus because I've known all of them for a very long time, and I have a great deal of respect for them and the fact that you put yourself out there. Until you've sat in this kind of seat, and it's been the worst 6 weeks of my life. If this had happened in December, I wouldn't be sitting up here because I feel like I wore yellow tonight. Sorry, I'm going to digress for a second. I wore yellow because I've had very little sunshine in my life since mid-January. So sometimes you have to make your own sunshine, and that's what this jacket represents. So I'm going to tell you this. It is my hope, whether I'm part of the next board or not, I hope I will be, and I hope you'll vote for me. But if you don't, it is my hope that the new board goes forward and learns from the lessons that you've just talked about. You do have to be in it. You have to make every decision with what's best for this county, not what's best for you, not what's best for the person that you have the most conflict with, what's best for you, and you have to pursue that mindset. And I charge each and every one of these people who are sitting up here to do just that. Because without a selfless mindset, we are going to endure more and more conflict and more polarization, just like Mr. O'Neill said.
Y'all glad y'all ain't having to deal with this, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Emily brought up a good point in the questions for candidate series that we did about cybersecurity. And I wanted you to kind of explain a little bit about how can the Register of Deeds office further transition into the digital age while you're still dealing with so much that is pen and ink? How will you do that as Register of Deeds?
Well, about 85% of what we do now is e-recording.
Okay.
So everything is digital. Everything that we do is online. We do have a very good software provider who gives us great security. We back up on and off site. So you're pretty safe now, but I just want to make sure we keep up with everything that we can keep up with to make sure our records are secure, old and new.
Natalie, just kind of expand on that. Like I said, 85% is online now, but with that other 15%, there's still some potential issues there, right? Or not?
Not really. We have general statutes that we have to follow and certain specific requirements in order for a document to be recorded. And so, like Emily had said, the software company has great IT, and as well as our county, we have a great IT as well. So I don't feel like there's an issue with that. We do have fraud detection, which is on the website, which if in the event something is recorded, you can be alerted to that. It tells you what type of document it is. It also gives you the book and page. You can call up and had a gentleman call not too long ago, and he was like, I have this SAT. Well, that's a satisfaction. That's when you pay off your loan. So, and he was like, okay, yes, that happened. So, you know, that's a neat feature that we've got, that our software company has provided for free.
All right, stay right there, Natalie, because this one, this is actually a question that came up to the New Hanover County Register of Deeds candidates from the Wilmington newspaper. But public records laws are often hard to navigate. What initiatives will you undertake to inform the public about what they have access to and how they can access it. You just brought up one of the fraud detection. But what's some of the other things that you'll do as registered deeds to make it easier for the public to be able to navigate some of this through this myriad of records laws?
Well, it's public record. Everything is public record. So once it's recorded, anybody can see it.
Is there something new, something different that could be done to make it better for the customers to be able to do that?
I don't know how it could be any better.
Okay. All right. Emily, do you kind of agree? Because then I'm going to go back and we'll follow up with that because there's a situation I'll bring up. So go ahead.
Okay. Like Natalie said, everything is public record. The only thing that is not public record are the DD-214s, the military discharges. On our website, we have scanned in just about everything in the office, so you can look at our deeds going back to 1668. You can get the information for the vital records. You just cannot look at the image. You have to come into the office to do that. So just about everything that we have is available right now to the public.
With that being said, with the website transitioned from one URL to another. On that other website that hasn't transitioned in many departments. Some of that's dealing with the Board of Commissioners, the previous agendas, the video. There's still a lot of bugs there. If you try to go search something for as simple as, I didn't know the exact borders of the districts. It took me a lot of sleep. For me, someone who lives on those two computers 24 hours a day, for me to find it, what about someone who still got a flip phone? Some of the issues, I know there's got to be some issues that have gone on with the website itself for your office. Is that the case?
I'm not aware of any issues for my particular office. Ours is pretty straightforward. All of our links work. We check them pretty frequently. So if you do find anything out there that's not, please let us know immediately and we will get that fixed for you.
Natalie, anything to add to? Okay. Do two more thoughts, but I want to make these quick. Let's do some yes/no. Can a viable candidate be found with the current reputation of Currituck County in the local government management circles? Can a viable candidate be found right now with Currituck County's reputation?
I absolutely think they can. I think, once again, there's going to be an election Tuesday. And I think that no matter what the outcome, there is going to be a new board. And I think that it is up to the current board to draw in after Tuesday. We are going to know, at least if there's a contested election in the fall, we're at least going to have a couple of candidates that will be seated.
Right.
And it is incumbent upon us, and I know you said yes or no, but I feel strongly about this. It is incumbent upon us to bring them in and assure any candidates that are brave enough to apply that they are going to be seated with a new board in mind. In the meantime, we will have to hire an interim, and that interim is going to really step into some big shoes and some big issues. So I think it is up to whoever is our interim to bridge that time between the old board and the new board coming in. Sorry, that wasn't yes or no,
it's fine.
but that's the best I can do.
Yeah.
I think we can, but I think it may be a challenge. I think there may be some good candidates that don't apply, given the climate in Currituck, and that is a concern. I do think that the current board will work very hard to get a good interim. I mean, we are approaching the budget season, so it's very important that they do. I'm sure our finance director will work really hard in helping as well. So I hope it can, and I do feel like we can, because Currituck is a good county. We've got good people, we've got good staff, so it will happen.
I don't think there'll be a problem with that. As Selena said, we've got a new board coming on, and that's going to be a motivation for somebody. Also, really, the fact that the problems are kind of laid out there raw may be just fine for somebody, because they're coming into a situation that they really know what the problems are. It's Sometimes you go into some particular counties, there's a lot of things that are hidden and a lot of things that you don't know about until you start working. And that's actually actually a pretty good thing going forward.
I'm going to say yes because they've pretty much answered that question, and there's no sense in.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we'll be able to find somebody good.
Okay. Yep.
Yes.
All right.
Can you repeat the question?
Of course.
He said,
Can a viable candidate for county manager be found with the current reputation of the county in local government management circles? As all those guys talk. All the people who are in that business talk.
At this current time, absolutely not.
Okay.
You will not find anybody worth their weight that is willing to put their time and effort into Currituck County at this current time. You're going to have to hire an interim manager. We call them the Rough Riders. They're retired county managers that the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners keep several of them on hand. They're going to have to come in here. Currituck County's got to get out of the newspaper. Facebook's got to calm down. Anybody that's going to come into Currituck, they're going to go on social media. And when they see just the rot gut that's out there constantly, they're not going to come here. So you're going to have a interim manager, and then the new board sometime early in the next year will be able to hire someone.
I would have to agree with Paul there. We went through this similar situation at the college to where we had a 2-year president, because after we did a national search, we didn't find what we wanted, but we picked the best person, what our problems were. We brought him in, and then we finally decided it was time to go out and find the right guy, so we did. And Jack Bagwell over at the COA was the right guy. But it took us 2 extra years to get to that right guy. So it can be done, but it's going to be a long process.
Stay right there, Mike. I want to, if you can do this in one word, it would be great. One attribute of the new county manager that you want to see. What's one attribute? 1 or 2 words, maybe 3.
Problem solving.
Accessible.
Accessible.
Accessible. That means you can.
You got to learn the Currituck accent.
Yeah, that was a Scoggin Island word.
That's right.
Resilient.
Communicative, trust, and kind of a team player.
1.
Well, you said
Well, I said 1, 2, or 3. 1 or 3, yeah. But that's fine. But you got it. 1. You got 1. You got 1.
You said maybe.
Maybe 1, 2, 3, but 1. Okay. 1 word. All right, they started. It's going to be 1 word.
Problems and solutions are
Okay, 1 word.
clearly communicated.
Okay.
Outstanding leader. Integrity. See my last question.
Okay. Stay there. Let's go down to Emily. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's. He's got
Did Janet touch anything?
Appreciate Steve Hausman letting use his gear. So.
But you might drop. That's a mic drop. Emily, how about Corolla and services that have to be done face-to-face for Corolla? And I'm just going to ask this one. What's done there? What can be done? What can somebody who lives in Corolla, visits from Corolla that wants to do something with the registered deed? Is there anything that can be done there, or do they have to come over to the courthouse?
Right now, they have to come over to the courthouse. We have looked at opening a satellite office over there. It has to get General Assembly approval.
Wow.
So we were interested in doing that, but it was shot down at the current time, and we have not pursued that because shortly after that, COVID hit. So.
Okay. All right. What can be done to improve besides? Go ahead, Natalie, because it's the same question. But what can be done with the satellite office? What would be some of the initiatives you'd like to see taken up if you could open a satellite office there?
Issuing marriage license. That's a very popular thing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and the certified copies that will go along with it. Yeah.
What's the demand? Like when I say the demand, what on average? Just give me a ballpark figure. How many marriage licenses in a month during this? I mean, in a month that you guys do that are specifically in Corolla? Do you guys know that, or can you tell?
Well, the marriage license can be issued at any register of deeds office, and you can get married anywhere in the state. Prior to 2001, they were only issued in the county they were going to get married in. But
so it's not really something that's as trackable as it used to be. Maybe is that what I'm? Yeah.
we can track how many that we issue, but as far as where they're married, I mean that's
right. Let's see here. I haven't run out of questions, but I kind of. What's some of the needs in the office now that need to be addressed now and down the road?
Well, the software does a lot for our office for the daily processes that we have, and I'm sure they will be updating any software issue that comes up, any bugs or anything like that occasionally will pop up. But and I'm sure the what's the word?
No pressure.
I'm sure the security will be upgraded as well.
So it's more of like online stuff. I mean, but other things in the I mean, just in general that needs to be done, updated, anything like that now and down the road. Okay. Amber?
Unless the general statute was changed, then we would be doing that, because everything is set by general statute.
Right.
We can't just do things at a whim.
Okay. Gotcha. Right. Amber?
Right now, I think the county just needs to make sure that we have the money that we need to keep up with the internet demand, you know, the online demand, as far as computers and security and that sort of thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. I'm going to move on from the county manager thing. I've got like 3 or 4 different questions I'd ask on that. Maybe this one, and this is not just county manager, something that Shay brought up. And in case y'all didn't know, Shay Bounds is unable to be here tonight. His fiance is any day now due to have a child, and she had a little issue today, so he was not able to attend. But something that Shay brought up in his 10 questions for cancer was, does requiring the manager and any department head to be a resident outweigh getting the best candidate for those jobs?
Absolutely not. Your zip code does not indicate your job performance. If we have that rule on the book, by the way, we are not required by general statute to have our county manager live in the office. That's a school board issue. The school board has a different statute that governs them. As far as the department heads, we have a huge problem with our proximity. We are sandwiched between Camden County, also a Tier 3 county, Dare County, who should be a Tier 3 county, and Chesapeake, one of the most affluent areas in Hampton Roads. We are constantly battling for talent. And as you all know, since the pandemic, the workforce has simply disappeared. I don't know where all the workers went, but we have a hard time. And requiring our department heads to live in the county would cause us to lose tons of people that have experience from Parks and Rec, Department of Social Services. Those are people we count on to come and provide services, the best service to our citizens. Zip code, to me, is not indicative of one's performance. To say that Ike McCree, because he lives in Southern Shore, doesn't know about Camden County, or Currituck County rather, excuse me, is ridiculous. That man has given over 30 years of service. The only person that knows more about Currituck County than Ike McCree is Owen Etheridge. And so if you can't get the answer from Ike McCree, go speak to Mr. Etheridge. But I'm telling you, that is not indicative of a type of county manager. Do I want the county manager to live in Currituck? That would be great. But is it a requirement? To me, that is ludicrous.
I think, you know, that it would be a good thing if he could be a part of our community, but I do agree with Selena. You know, Ike had been here with the county for so many years, and it's my understanding that you all agreed to allow him to live where he currently lives. So As far as department heads having to live here, I think it's great, but should it be etched in stone? I think you have to look at each individual situation.
I know the previous two county managers, Dan Scanlon lived in Currituck County and Ben Steichleather lived in Currituck County. And I know that it's normally a internal policy with the Board of Commissioners whether the county manager lives in Currituck County. I understand that with the talent pool, given what COVID has done, a lot of talent has walked out of the labor force. I just think sometimes you have to look at perceptions. And I understand what Selena said, but I fully believe if you can, it is better to have a county manager that lives in Currituck County.
How about department heads?
That's a different question because there's so many of them, and the talents are very specialized. So I would say you can be a little flexible on that.
It would be nice if they could live in the county, but do we have somebody that's qualified that lives in the county? So that would be the only thing, you know, trying to make sure they live here. As far as department heads, I own a business and I've lived here forever, but I worked in another state. So kind of the same thing. Do you have the people qualified? Yes, we want them to be from here. You know, we want to keep it in our county, but it's just making sure we have somebody qualified. That would be hard to really say. But I prefer it, yes, but not necessarily.
If they don't want to live in our county and be part of our community, why should we pay them? That is, I don't understand why you would want somebody that doesn't follow the county rules, that doesn't manage the county, that lives in another place. As far as department heads, I'm flexible on that, but I think a county manager absolutely should live in our county.
I also think that a manager should live in the county. However, I will say this, Ike had a little different bargain. He was already here as the county attorney. He didn't live here. Everybody knew it when he was promoted to county manager. However, the Board of Commissioners will set that standard when they hire a new manager. And it's my hope that the new manager would be told you need to live in the county you're going to manage. And so far as department heads, all right, you got department heads that don't live in the county, but as we hire new department heads, I think everyone should live in the county that they're going to govern, and they should have to live under the same rules that they're enforcing on everybody else.
And I would agree with that. I think the county manager, when he gets his new contract, whoever it is, live in the county. When it comes to department heads, as transition, as we replace them, whatever it might be, yes. You want a job, we want the education, we want the background, we also want you to live here with us and follow our rules, so we can all say we live together.
The Mid-County Bridge. Mid-County Bridge. Mid-County Bridge. 100 years. I found something, did Horace Bell post something this week that said 1920s there's a map showing a bridge over from Barco. Somehow, I don't know how they would have done that.
Was it going to Knott's Island?
No. No, it was going to Corova. So anyway, so I always say I'm 51 now, and we've been talking about Mid-County Bridge since before I was born. Well, we definitely have it. So with that being said, now it looks like construction will start during your term and will be finished when you're running in 4 years, possibly, but it may be going into a second term, whatever. But it's definitely going down that road. It's going to start during your term. What's the one priority you have to see that the positives and negatives it's going to bring will be addressed? What's one priority that's going to have to be addressed, a positive and a negative, with the Mid-Currituck Bridge?
The Loch Ness Monster,
Yeah. Yeah.
Bigfoot, and the Mid-County Bridge.
I'm
Right.
stealing. That's the T-shirt. That's a T-shirt. I'm stealing that.
Right.
I'm writing it down right now.
In 2017, Currituck bought a piece of land on the mainland side. in 2018, Currituck County finally talked the state into buying a piece of property on the other side before they could build houses on it. So those two things have taken place. That's when I really believed it was going to happen. We've had governors come and go, and they've taken our money and they've given it back, but I think it's finally going to happen. So the one positive thing, both sides, there's a landing spot. The negative thing of it is, it keeps getting pushed back. We've done everything we can. It's time to cut it out and let's start.
But address a positive and a negative the bridge itself will bring when it's built.
Well,
one positive, one negative
well,
needs to be addressed.
It will bring connectivity to where we're not relying, and I'm going to use it in blunt terms, Duck is no longer going to be a bad place to go through when it comes to getting people that want to come to Currituck County in the Outer Banks. They will be able to go right from the mainland. So that's the positive there. By getting the bridge, they'll also be able to get services, whether it's fire, rescue, cleaning staff, employees. We can all get them there, and they can live on the mainland. We won't have a problem over there. So that's the positive from the bridge getting there. The negative from the bridge going over there, more houses are going to get built.
All right. Yep.
I'm not going to ask you to repeat the
No, I will. I will.
question.
So one positive and one negative that needs to be addressed.
Well, I can tell you right now, the positive is going to be the interconnectivity. The negative is going to be, the toll is going to be so expensive that people at Currituck County are not going to pay it to enjoy their own beaches. They are not going to be allowed to get a discount. They're not going to be allowed to have a free holiday. You're going to pay the same toll that everybody else from Virginia is going to pay. So you think this bridge is going to get you to Corolla, but when you see what the toll is going to cost, you're not going to go. That's the negative. However, we aren't even talking about preparing for what it's going to do on the mainland.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yes.
We're
Not even talking about. We're going to have a new traffic situation in Coinjock now to match the one in Lower Currituck, and nobody is even planning and talking about that. That is a huge negative. That is before you ever get the bridge. It's got to get started now, and I know that I've talked with some of the current board members, and that's something that they want to get started on, but that's something that's really got to get going.
So, positive, excuse me, positive side of it, I think fire, EMS, any kind of police response, anything like that will be much improved for a lot of those areas, right? It'll be easier.
And vice versa.
And vice versa, if it needs to come back this way.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with what Paul said. It's going to take a lot of planning. In the last, few years, what I've seen, we're not very good at forecast planning. We're very good at reactionary planning, and we can't wait for the bridge to be done before we start game planning what we're going to do with it. So,
you benefit the most of anybody sitting here if you get elected, because, and I say that as a positive because you're going to be able to get to a meeting.
Yes.
A lot easier.
Yep. So positive, hopefully it will keep the 4 hours sitting in traffic through Duck. And I'll be taking my boat more often too, by the way. The negative, I feel like there's a lot of citizens that ain't happy about it. The tolls and pretty much what everybody else said. So I get asked that question quite often, and I'm kind of on the fence about,
Okay.
So we got to be proactive about it. That we really got to start, like Tony and the others said, we got to think ahead about what's going on with it. That's my thoughts.
Okay.
The positive of the Mid-County Bridge is movement of commerce. The labor force is going to be able to go over there regardless of a toll. That's going to keep the shoulder season. There probably won't be a shoulder season over there. And that's going to help with your sales tax base in that area. So that's positive. As Paul said, the mainland is the big question mark. We are going to have a major shift in mainland activity from Barco and that whole area because some of the nicest beaches on the East Coast are going to be 10 minutes away. So what I would say is the negative about this is there's just a lot of question marks. It's very difficult on a major change like this, a major change in infrastructure in this county, to get a handle on what exactly is going to happen. And that's what I think is the negative. There's just a lot of question marks that I don't think any of us up here can really answer.
Well, first of all, I'll believe that bridge when I see it. Because it's been talked about, probably like you're saying, as long as you are old. I think a positive will definitely be the accessibility. You know, we visited Kerala a couple of times during this campaign period, and they really don't have health care over there. So that will help them a little bit. We'll be able to enjoy the beach more if we can afford the toll. But the negative that concerns me most is what is it going to do to our businesses in Lower Currituck? Those that rely on tourist traffic, because that will be gone. So I'm most concerned about Lower Currituck businesses with the bridge.
Well, a positive workforce, I agree with that. I think a positive for Lower Currituck is it's not going to solve our problems down here. I think actually it might help businesses, because now businesses in Lower Currituck do not open generally on the weekend because of traffic. I think that not everybody who visits here is going to Kerala. There's always going to be people who go to Kitty Hawk, who go to Kill Devil Hills, and I'm not going to name every town, all the way down to Buxton. So there's still going to be traffic in Lower Currituck. Don't let anybody who's sitting in this room that lives on that highway lull you into thinking traffic's going away, because it's not. It may help it. We are planning for it. We have already established that we are going to look at a land use plan and a overlay for both Maple, Barco, and Coinchock. We've already got that in motion and have discussed it greatly, so it's not like, I know you want to believe this board's doing nothing, but that's not true either. We actually have deep discussions. It's not all philosophical. We don't butt heads on everything. Go back and look at our record. There's a lot of 7-0 votes. And one of the things we all agree on, that this is going to change us. During COVID, one of the big problems was we couldn't even access our own county without being beholden to Dare County. That will change that. We will not have to ask permission if the bridge is ever built. Like I said, let's go look for Bigfoot, but it might be built. We will not have to ask Dare County to service our area. We will be able to service it, so that's going to be a huge benefit.
I'm going to ask you guys this question, because it does benefit. We talked about the satellite office in Kerala. If the bridge gets built, then what's the point of a satellite office? But what's a positive and negative you see as not someone who's going to be making decisions on land use plans and things like that? What's a positive and a negative you see as a county employee right now?
It would definitely help the people in Kerala to be able to access our office, be able to come over on a whim. And you know, most people over there aren't going to be worried about the toll. A lot, I mean, not most of them, but a lot. So it would definitely be more beneficial for that. People on vacation to come over to get a marriage license, going to use that. So negatively, I mean, like everybody said, you know, nobody on the mainland wants their land messed up to be able to get to Kerala. So
I agree.
All right. Selena, how do we preserve the vestiges of the sportsman's paradise from a conservation standpoint? I'm talking about farmland, wildlife, fishing, what we that grew up here and those who have moved here came to Currituck for was because of this slice. But, you know, look down here on this end of the county, there's stuff that was approved last two decades ago that hasn't been built out, hasn't happened. We haven't become the true bedroom community of Dare County. We haven't seen the explosive commercial growth that we thought might happen. So how do we preserve that while knowing we have something that's been approved and more demand for it possibly, at the same time trying to preserve this balance? How do we do that?
Well, for one, we give incentives to our farmers to keep the farmland farmable. That's a problem because if you don't have farmers, and this was said to me the other day, and it resonates with me growing up on a farm, if you don't have farmers, then what good is farmland? So that, of course, is a deep issue that I believe we will have to address, and I believe strongly in our vocational and technical education. Agribusiness has got to be pushed in a place called the Sportsman's Paradise. I think we give incentives for large open spaces. That includes giving farmers tax breaks that want to preserve that through a voluntary agricultural district, which I've said many times. I think that when it comes to what's been platted, you're already seeing some of those built out. I think there is a need for diverse housing. On our communities, we want people to want to live in Currituck. When they come home, it feels like home, and they want to actively engage in this community. They don't lay their head on a pillow and go do all their living in Dare County, because that doesn't benefit us. We need people who want this county to thrive. And the way we do that is to stop rezoning farmland into postage stamp houses and communities, and we get people to want to actively live here. That's my answer.
So I agree with Selena in that we can't say that we just want to keep all the farmland and people can't sell their farmland, but we have to give them incentives, whether it be tax breaks or whatever else we can do to help them. And as you said, there's already things on the books. You know, I've been told by a commissioner there's 1,800 lots on the books waiting to be built. Not down county, but 18 for the whole county. And I've been told by county manager's office there's 2,000. So we know it's somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't want to see Lower Currituck a bedroom community. Moyock is a bedroom community, pretty much. I don't think that's a good thing. We want people to stay here and enjoy Currituck and be vested in it. So I do agree with Selena.
Yeah, don't pass the mic. And only reason because this comes to my mind. You served on the Marine Fisheries Commission.
I did.
Your husband served on the Marine Fisheries
He
Commission.
did. He was chairman.
I don't, and maybe I'm missing something, Selena. I don't see the activism that I see from Steve House in Dare County.
Well, and you're exactly right.
I don't see that. What?
You're exactly right. And we do have a lot of commercial fishermen here in Currituck, and that is a part of our heritage, as is the hunting lodges in Currituck. So I think it would be good for our board to maybe have an advisory committee of some sort to see what their needs are. A few years back, there was a young man had to move his crab pots from his yard because it violated an ordinance of some sort. That's not a good thing. You know, commercial fishing is, I enjoy fresh seafood, and I'm sure you do too. And we don't just go get it from the frozen food section.
So I didn't mean to jump that. It just dawned on me as I was talking to Jay. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that part of it, and then we'll go down the line. As far as
say, the land of the wild goose is what brought us here. My husband's a retired game warden. I hope there'll be more game wardens coming here. I know you don't. Maybe you want to, you know. Sorry, honey. But I think that, you know, once again, incentives. I believe that we have to advocate that, and we do have a game commission that is an advisory board to us. So thanks for that advisory board.
Okay.
Okay, up in Moyock, we know what the problems are up there. Explosive growth, infrastructure, schools. Looking down in Lower Currituck, some of the nicest land that we have is in Lower Currituck along the coast, along the Currituck Sound and then along the Albemarle Sound. It's high, it's sandy. That is a resource that we need to be aware of, because we can cultivate that area and compete with Dare County on some of the things. Set up some maybe smaller marinas, some small piers out into the Soundside Park in southern Currituck is a wonderful resource that I don't think is utilized as much as it should be. It has overhead lighting. Whalehead doesn't have overhead lighting. Anything in Corolla Park doesn't have overhead lighting because of the historical significance. That park should be utilized in a much more detailed way. The boat museum, the maritime museum, went over to the beaches. There was a big push to have it on the mainland. A lot of people were upset when it didn't go on the mainland. And I think that some of the things we need to look at some preservation and some of the occupancy tax to come over here on the mainland and broaden our tax base. Thank you.
So pretty much what everybody has said. We need more green space. We need to stop letting these housing developments come in, and our small businesses, we need to keep building our small businesses, and just more green space is what I think we need. Green space.
Can you read the question again?
Yeah, sure.
I'm pulling a Paul Beaumont here.
All right, Ness. Hey.
Oh! I did it. Sorry, Paul. Hey, Paul.
Hey, that was a great compliment to you, Paul.
So, okay.
Twice on Saturday.
Yeah. All right. How do we preserve the vestiges of the sportsman's paradise from a conservation standpoint? And like I said, we've got all those things have been platted out here in Lower Currituck, especially. We know what the situation is. Lower Currituck's a little bit more unique, not being a bedroom community, and at the same time advocating for continuing the traditional occupations and the traditional lifestyle that so many of us grew up on and lived and moved here for.
Okay, so I'm one of those people that really love to fish. So as far as the fishing and the hunting and stuff like that, that is the roots of a lot of the people and the family names that have been here forever. I feel like ensuring that we've got the proper space to do it, we've got the proper regulations in place to protect those things. Look at a lot of the fish kills that have happened in the last 2-3 years. Some of those have been because of the red tide, but some of them possibly could be elsewhere related, and I think we need to really hold those things accountable. As far as farmland, without farmers, we don't eat. So I'm a big fan of what Selena said as far as stop rezoning the ag and going from there.
When I was growing up here in Currituck County, it was farming, fishing, and hunting. What year? It was a long time ago.
What century?
And if you didn't do that, you learned the 3 R's: reading, writing, and rode to Norfolk. And that's how people made a living. And then in the 80s, the tourism pop came. People discovered the Outer Banks and wanted to live here. The cost of living here is so much cheaper than it is in Chesapeake, Norfolk, Virginia Beach. But over the years, we have lost focus of what makes Currituck unique. We've had some visionaries that bought, such as the Whalehead Club, and preserved that. They got ate alive, and they got thrown out of office for doing it. We've had the boards I've served on, we bought land. We created the parks that y'all are talking about and the different things. We got criticized, and I actually lost an election for buying parks and property and open space. And we have to get back to that, and we have to teach our kids. Somehow in the school system, we've got to teach our kids that green beans don't come from food lines. They're grown. Soybeans are grown. All this stuff is a part of our culture and a part of our heritage, but we're not carrying that forward. We have so many people moving here that that's not a part of their culture. We need to teach them about how things were here in the county if we hope to preserve it. So I know that the Historical Society is working on the refurbishing the jail, or the commissioners are, and there's other things, the boat museum, but we have to make that front and center and part of the attractiveness to the next generation, not just us older folks, but the younger folks have got to take the field trips to these places so that they understand. And that's how we can preserve some of it with the next generation.
You might need the question again.
No,
Yeah.
being a military brat, I can tell you this, You looked at Virginia Beach, and they didn't pay attention. You looked at Chesapeake, they didn't pay attention. You looked at Suffolk, and these are places that either I lived at or I looked at to move to. As that civilization caught up with me, I moved further south. And I looked at Currituck and I said, there it is. It's what I'm looking for. I came down here and I bought 11 acres. My wife and I built our house. And I'll tell you what, folks, I haven't looked back since. I'm not moving again. One time I had a chance in a hang glider to go up and watch and look at Currituck. It was awesome to look at everything. In a kayak, same thing. It was awesome to look at everything. We're forgetting what those other cities failed to do. We've got to get back to it. We've got to slow down everything. We've got to look at what we need and what made Currituck why everybody came here. Hunting, fishing, you name it, sportsman's paradise. We were all there. The farmers. These are all things that we like to stop at. The farmers market on the side. So we need to get back to those things, and we can, but it's going to be a hard decision, and it's going to be a hard work. And again, 8 commissioners have got to tell us what we need.
All right, the 60 degrees in this room is because obviously it's a wine cellar. That's why it's 60 degrees. I'm wrapping it up because everybody's cold. I've got 5 other questions I wanted to ask, but no, we're not.
Ask them.
No. All right.
We'll suffer.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, speed round.
All right, yeah, speed round. What can be done to increase public water access beyond just boat ramps and a dock on the canal that you can't catch fish at because the current? There ain't no fish there.
I can't hear you.
What can be done to increase? We got all this shoreline. We got 200 miles of water shoreline in Currituck County, and you can access 100 yards, whatever. Sound Park and the boat ramp on Waterloo. That's about it. What can be done to increase public water access so the public can learn how to swim in the Sound like we did, and not have to go to somebody's house to do it?
Can I answer that question?
Let's go in order.
Let the new girl, no.
No, let's go in order.
I
Yeah.
just want to tell you guys.
Yeah.
You can do all sorts of things. You can say, as I've talked about, kayaking and everything else, but I think the bottom line comes to this. You're right. We have the Sound, we have the ocean, we have all these other places. And guess what? We have no marinas.
Yeah.
Why don't we? People say, well, it's because we're worried about having all these houses with kids and everything else. Most kids don't live at marinas. So we need marinas. It brings in taxes. It's going to bring in people from the outside that are coming here instead of driving here. So that's a simple way to increase the use of our water. Taxes. And less houses.
If you want to have more water access, the Board of Commissioners are going to have to find some property along the water, buy it, and create a park.
Okay.
I mean, that's what we've done in the past. That's what we're going to have to do in the future.
Like the horse park?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of places that people can.
Underdeveloped.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's.
Control your wife.
Yeah. Control yourself. So there's the Board of Commissioners in the past used to set aside money for land banking. The Board of Commissioners in the future needs to do the same thing, buy some strategic property that has water access and create the public parks.
This was a speed round, so yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So everybody knows I'm a real estate agent, and everybody's like, we don't need a realtor up there. They're going to keep selling, and they just want to put money in their pocket. So I have a property that I was going to wait and present it to the county. It's a lot of land. It's about 900 foot of road or waterfront. I can't really talk about the property now. If I wanted to make a ton of money off of it, I could present it to developers, but I'm trying to present it to the county. It's kind of like Wellhead is set up. It's got tons of boat access. You could bring in money by having venues there, wedding venues, 4-H ag, the ag class could utilize it. Can't really talk a whole lot about it, but it's something really exciting that is coming.
Okay.
So it's a lot of land.
Right.
It's a lot of land, and y'all are gonna like it, I promise. And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
think I'm gonna mimic what Paul said, that there has to be a land bank and that the commissioners really have to look at purchasing land to have access to the sounds, especially the Currituck Sound. One thing we need to realize too is if you went over to Corolla this year, it smelled bad over there a long time. That was some problems. We had a rough summer over there. Those red flags were out all summer long. And that basin there, the seaweed got in there and it smelled bad. It's a lot fresher on this side of the sound, and we need to look at that part of this county.
I will say I will have a story probably in 2 weeks about that specifically. So keep an eye out for that, because there's a lot that's been going on and a lot planned. So I am writing about that, and that'll be posted soon.
If we want more water accessibility, we do have to buy more land, obviously. But in all fairness to Currituck, I too am a realtor, and I visit other counties, Camden, Chowan, down to Columbia. We have a lot of water access.
That's true.
We really do.
Compared to them, yeah.
When you compare us to the other counties. You know, it's, I do agree with Paul though. If we can get more, let's get it. And that smell, we need to keep working with Bobby Hanig and Congress and whoever else.
Yep.
And let's use that boat basin over there. I think that'll fix the smell if we have a little more activity over there. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we are working on it. We have had movement. Our representatives, both Ed Goodwin and Bobby Hanig, as well as our county manager, and have met with CAMA and all the people that love to say no. But we actually are seeing some movement, and hopefully we will be able to access that boat basin. As far as Sound Park, there is access there. We just, spent a good chunk of change shoring up the boat access there. It's not ideal. As my husband likes to point out, there's not a lot of deep water right along the coast. So sometimes when land is presented to us, and it is presented to us quite often, you have to weigh, is it going to be ideal for a park? If you've got swampland, wetlands, shallow areas, you're not going to be able to put a boat basin there. So just buying land is not the solution. Right. Making what we buy the best and accessible, and that has to be weighed. So I think we do have a lot. I think we're blessed with what we have. Could we always use more? We just have a marina that has been proposed. It's about as popular as, well, I better not use any analogies for fear this is being taped. It's not popular. How about I say that? Because same thing with marinas. You know, it's an environmental weight there. There's a concern. But boat access and being able to launch in Poplar Branch or Harbinger to get over to enjoy our beaches is important. So I'm for looking for access points.
Can I just say this? How many in this room know when I say Camp Coleman, know what I'm talking about? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you know when I say Camp Coleman. That's what I'm talking about. We don't have a Camp Coleman.
What's Camp Coleman?
Camp Coleman was the 4-H campus at the end of Panther Landing Road on the Northwest River. A lot of my age, until it burned down. Huh?
Learned how to swim there.
I was getting ready to say that. Learned how to swim there in this county. We don't have that. We do not have a place to go and jump in the water. You can't go in the water legally at Sound Park, can you?
That's correct.
You can't go in the water. So that's what I'm talking about when I say public water access. That's something we lack. So, yep.
Sammy,
You got the refuge.
Just quick.
Really quick.
Yeah.
I went to a camp called Camp Ruffett, and it was in Mamie, North Carolina. Do you know where Mamie is?
I know where Mamie is, yes.
Okay.
I worked there.
How many, raise your hand if you know
Camp
where
Ruffett.
Mamie, North Carolina is.
Well, most everybody here knows where Mamie is, don't they?
I do some very
We are in Lower Currituck.
Yeah, I mean, there's a radio tower in Mamie that I've spent many hours trying to figure out why it doesn't work anymore. But anyway, can we create a walkable community in the commercial centers of Granby and Modoc? I bring that up because in my whole process in the last year has become a runner. And I drive to Kitty Hawk and run. I drive to Killow Hills to run. I drive to Duck to run. I run on Church's Island because it's easy for me to do it. But you know what I have to do? I have no shoulder. and I'm running through people's yards. I saw it today, guys riding down, there's a bicyclist trying to ride down the curb and gutter. Great big sidewalk in front of Royal Farms now. Can we get sidewalks in Moyock and Grandy? Can we do that?
Well, I'm not the policy expert here, but I don't believe sidewalks are a umbrella that counties fall under. I believe that's for municipalities.
Well,
but we do have a connectivity system, and we do require new subdivisions to be part of that connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
So as new subdivisions, and well, we've got 1 million of them up in Moyock, as they're built, that's part of the requirement. The problem is you've got older subdivisions, and I'll use my own as the same. As a runner myself, it is dangerous to run without sidewalks, even in a not so busy neighborhood. So I think that as the county grows, there will be more areas with sidewalks. How we as a county move forward and bring older subdivisions into that system is going to be a challenge. No one wants to give up their beautiful trees that they've planted to put a sidewalk in their front yard. It's a very contentious issue. So new subdivisions, not a problem. Connecting with the old, it is very contentious. So I'm not sure how we will solve that problem going forward.
And I'm thinking along the lines of Currituck Highway and working with DOT. Would you be willing to do that to the county? Because we've seen it. I see it across the bridge. I see it. And I know that they're able to utilize their occupancy tax to build those projects because they are tourism. There is a tourism related to that. This is a different situation. We know that. But would you be willing to do that, to push the
If that's
DOT?
something that counties are able to do,
Yeah.
I'm sure we would get we'd probably be burned in effigy, and they'd want to cut our throats and burn our houses over in Corolla to dare take occupancy tax to connect Grandy with Harbinger. But
Or just Grandy to Grandy from,
well,
from Subway.
I know
Subway
I'm
to
exaggerating, but
Citgo.
I think that connectivity is important. I don't think the corridor is ever going to be a place where people want to go stroll.
No.
You know, it is what it is in Grandy, but you know, who knows what the corridor will look like in 20 years as it becomes a necessity where people want to walk from place to place. Right now, businesses are spread out, but I would support it if the businesses were able to access it, to access a different, you know, to connect our businesses. I know that was clear as mud, so sorry.
Well, I think it comes down to what do the citizens want, and if it would improve, as Selena said, the connectivity to the businesses. So I would support it if there's a need, if that's what most people want.
Yeah, I think your question was specific to Moyock and Grandy, right?
Those are
Pretty
the
much,
two.
yeah.
Those are the two.
There needs to be, in Moyock, you've got that area where the Burger King is and the Food Line, Sherwin-Williams and Janet's office, Howard Hanna. That is a perfect place where there should be some sidewalks right there. Also in Grandy, around Royal Farms, McDonald's, I see a lot of people that are coming from Walnut Island trying to cross the road to go over the Food Line. That's going to be a pretty dangerous intersection, and that's another area that needs to be looked at. But I think Grandy and Moyock are definitely should be targeted.
Okay.
So in Corolla, they finally started doing more sidewalks. I think somebody ended up getting hit and killed that was working, and they were leaving Food Line. It was late, so they really have started doing the sidewalks. And I do, like Selena said, the newer businesses, I know I was at one of the commissioner meetings, and they said something, Royal Farms had been built, but the sidewalk wasn't done, and they got that done. And I know there's a path. I have a place in Grady. I don't know if I said that or not.
Yeah.
So I am over here a lot, and I do feel like along that main road, there's a lot of people that walk going, I think it's Hardee's all the way down to the McDonald's. There's a path. So they are walking there and using that.
Yeah.
So I'm all for sidewalks if we can do it.
This is a prime example of working with the community to figure out what the community wants. If the community wants it, and you know, we can build consensus and come up with a plan and problem shoot it and get it approved, then yeah. If the community doesn't want it, then no.
It's-
Island, there's
No.
You were specifically asking about Grandy and Moyock.
It's Grandy and Moyock because that's where I see on a daily basis people are riding their bikes trying to get to work. The kids that are going to McDonald's and Hardee's and Rural Farms are walking across 158 at that stoplight without a crosswalk or crosswalk signals. So,
Well, two things would have to happen. Number one, it would have to be a priority of the Board of Commissioners, and number two, funds would have to be appropriated to make it happen. Right now, the Unified Development Ordinance requires new subdivisions to put in sidewalks. However, you're just getting a hodgepodge of a sidewalk here that's 100 foot, and then a quarter of a mile down the road, you've got a little. There's got to be some connectivity, and the Board of Commissioners are the ones that are going to have to decide that's what we want to do. Then they're going to have to work with DOT because a lot of these are going to have to be located in DOT right-of-ways.
Yep.
And you're going to have to get DOT buy-in to see if maybe for safety reasons we can access some funds from DOT to do that as well. But it's within the purview of the commissioners. We did the ones over in Corolla. We started those years ago, and we use occupancy tax. I don't know if you can use occupancy tax over here or not because that's really being scrutinized as to how it's spent. But funds would have to be identified, and right now we're building a $60 million school, and I'm not sure funds are just laying around under the rug where we can just pick them up and say, okay, here we go. It's going to take some planning and long-term financial commitments to do those things.
Years ago, and I can say that anybody who's been a commissioner before will remember this, there was an overlay for the Grandy area around the food line, looking at DOT funds, state funds, federal funds, to bring crosswalks, enhanced lighting, a walking path, a bike path, all of those things. I don't know where it went, and I don't think that any of the commissioners, I think it went in one of those great places on a bookshelf and everybody kind of forgot about it when COVID hit.
Yep.
And it's a shame because it already exists. So there's one of the things. But again, we were looking at money in 4 or 5 different places, not county money only, because right now we can't afford it. Then you look at Moyock. Yes, you have sidewalks that go nowhere on all the new businesses. I bought 11 acres. You want to live in a neighborhood, that's fine. I didn't want streetlights. I didn't want sidewalks in where I lived at 8 houses of 10 acres or more. If you want a neighborhood, I think it's great, because when it's built, it's cheaper and it's easier to put it in there. As to the main roads, it's a very difficult thing to do. Corolla is a different world altogether, and the multi-use paths were a whole lot easier to do. Very expensive, and we had a source fund for it. In Moyock, I don't think there's a source fund. We're trying, and it may happen as more and more new businesses, but we gotta quit building houses on the main corridor so we can put sidewalks in front of businesses and they can start connecting to something.
beach nourishment.
You knew
Yeah.
that question was coming.
Yeah, I'm not going to let that one go. I have covered this beach nourishment thing since it started in Dare County in 2008. 2011 is when it was done. Irene hits. The day they pumped the last load of sand at Nags Head Pier was right there when it happened. So we've been covering this for 14 years now. Gosh, 16. Yeah, 16 years. So the beaches are a primary economic driver. We cannot argue, we cannot say that beach is. But it's not the dry sand beach. It's what you don't see. So there's something to be said about that. If there's no Currituck Outer Banks, we're Terrell County. Camden. Yes. Okay, I'll give you Camden. We are Camden. If Mr. Slick, if Mom hadn't got Mr. Slick to take the gate down, we're Camden.
Yep.
It's straight out. So, there's assumption that everybody's going to have to pay for it. There seems to be an assumption that if Currituck has to do beach nourishment, everybody's going to pay for it. We're going to be paying for it in Churches Island. They're going to be paying for it in Spot. They're going to be paying for it in Gibbs Woods. Would you support the Dare County funding model that was used, which is portion of the occupancy tax, special tax district within boundaries on the Currituck Outer Banks to pay for beach nourishment. And at the time is now, because we're likely near the end of your term. Let's say it needs to be started planning now so that it would be done before the end of your term. What do you say to that? What do you say about going with the Dare County funding model, getting it started now, because by the time your term is up, there's a good chance there's going to be some portion of this beach that's going to need it.
We have to stop doing beach pushes. We have to take and stop with building any closer to the water. In 2000, and I believe it would have been 15, 16, I looked at the model that Pine Island did when it came to beach nourishment. I looked at some others. We got the county to take and do one of its own. And the one in Pine Island and the one the county did said, we're at least 5 years away from having to think about it. Now, what I learned most about it, more than anything, was we were fortunate that the offshore troughs, sandbars, etc., kept us from having the rip tides like they do farther south, kept us from having the erosion that they did farther south. Part of our beach up in Currituck, we got from Sandbridge, and it was that grainy, pebbly stuff, which is nothing like the rest of the beaches that we have. So we know that, and if we keep updating these studies so we can look at it, yes, at some point they're going to say in the next 5 years you need to start now. The last study I read did not say that. Did not say we had to start now. But yes, we have to keep current on it and be ready, because if we don't start when they tell us to start now, it's 5 years before we're going to do it. So we have to look at the model. We have to look at where the funding's coming from. We have to be prepared. Special tax district, yes, that may come down what it is, but it'll be the Outer Banks, not the mainland. It'll be Oxford tax, not the mainland. It'll be federal money, not the mainland. We can't afford it. I watched it in Virginia Beach. I watch how it changes the world. I'll tell you folks, it's a tough thing to look at. It's an expensive thing to do it. It smells bad when they're doing it. It's nasty when they do it. There is 3 miles I think that they really need to have to look at versus the rest of it. So yes, we have to look at it and stay current on it, and at some point we're going to have to make that decision. The other thing is, you keep hearing all the times about other counties that are running out of sand and they want to come steal from Currituck off our beaches. Well, I'd say if we're not at least 500 yards out before they let them touch it, no, we're going to fight that tooth and nails. When Virginia Beach had to look for sand, they had to go miles offshore to get the comparable sand. Let the other counties look for their sand somewhere else, but not near Currituck. Currituck, when we need it, we need our own sand.
Good question.
No.
The first thing is, people on the mainland will not be paying for it. And just to clarify that, there's not a single person up here that I believe is going to cast a vote to tax the mainland for beach nourishment. Now, it was brought up to me at the Kerala Candidates Forum why the mainland should be participating, but that's not going to happen. There's not a commissioner serving or anybody running that's going to do that. So we'll clarify that, or I'll be surprised if there is. So beach nourishment is a scientific decision. It's not an emotional decision. And sometimes we put emotion ahead of science because, well, Dare County's done it, so we need to do it. But there may be some hot spots where we have to do something. But a full-scale beach nourishment, what's happening now is the northerly winds take away, the southerly winds bring it back. And we've been in a pattern the last few years of a lot of southerly winds. And it's my understanding that we're actually gaining beach in a lot of the areas that were supposedly distressed. Now, I'm not minimizing that there's some areas that may need attention, but the science is going to decide what happens, not emotion. Because when you make emotional decisions on something like that, you may be biting off more than you can chew, and we just need to read the study. I'm not sure any of us, other than Mike, has spent a lot of time on the study. And so I'm not going to commit to anything until it's time and there's a scientific reason to do it.
So I have looked at the study. It's a lot of stuff that I'm not fully understanding full of that stuff. That made sense. All right, so
I got it.
Honestly, the scary part is there's nobody out there that started doing beach nourishment and they're like, all right, cool, problem solved. Now we don't have to do it. No. Once you open that Pandora's box, it doesn't matter if tomorrow it is $500 million a mile. Well, you got that or either lose the beach. I don't think people really fully understand how pricey beach nourishment is. The last number that I was told was $11 million a mile. So if you want to put that, Dare County's got a lot more residents. There's a lot more houses in Dare County that are in that special tax district than we will be able to put in there. I don't think people want to fully commit to understanding how much that's going to cost, and then if prices go up and this, that, and the other, like, I try everything before we do anything about beach nourishment. What Paul's saying about hot spots here and there, absolutely. Address it. Sustainability. You know, the dune fences, the sea oats. We currently have grant programs for that. Use those, incentivize those, make the grants bigger, make them better, all that stuff. But you can't just, you know, continually do beach nourishment, in my opinion.
So I am willing to bet Tony or myself has had that question asked more than any one of us on here because of our district. I live in Corova on the 4x4, and I'm in Corolla, I'm all over, but I have been doing some research, and a few of you have heard me talk about this. I don't know if it's allowed. I'm still learning it. Y'all should look it up. If you don't want to look it up, I've got some information. They're called geotubes. I'm doing a lot of research on it for about 1.5 years now when I decided to do this because I knew this was going to be a question. So living on the 4x4, like they said, the sand is constantly moving. So down at ramp 23, sometimes you want to go off that ramp and there's no ramp. You go back another week and there's a ton of sand down there. When you're coming off the pavement in Swan, Paul, there's a ton of stumps up there, tons of stumps. But you might come back couple weeks later and you can drive exactly where those stumps were. A lot of the stumps, maybe not every one of them, but the sand is constantly moving. So I can't, that's a question that, you know, it's going to be a lot of money. I do think there's some areas that definitely needs to be looked at, but these geotubes, they're pretty natural looking. I have a friend that actually has had them for about 1 year now. They are in Mexico. Beaches are different, I know, but they are really working for them. The people that don't have them, total different beach. But I'm going to have pictures and I'm going to have some more information. Like I said, if you want to learn some more about it, email me, call me, whatever, and I'll get you some of the information. But it's really neat. And we need to keep building, you know, putting the sea oats and keep nourishing our dunes and keeping people off of our dunes. In Corova, that's a real headache. It's a pain in the butt. Yeah, the horses are on it, so we should be able to go on it. No, you don't. You need to stay off our dunes. That's one thing that I am sick of. I'm tired of the tourists all over our dunes, and that's one thing I really want to push out there. So that's what I got to say. Call me and I'll give you some information on it.
I looked at the beach nourishment study. There was one table that was important. You had linear regressions, mapping, all this stuff. There was one table that was important. It gave a 30-year horizon. In the next 10 years, they identify 6 to 8 houses that are going to be impacted. In 20 years, I think it goes up to 50 to 60. 30 years out, it goes up to about 160 homes that they feel is going to be impacted. If you think you can predict Mother Nature out 30 years, you're absolutely crazy. I think what Paul said, we identify certain places that need to have it done, it's done. When you compare it to Dare County, we're looking at 2 totally different scenarios. Dare County, there were roads that were being impacted. We don't have that in Corolla. It is individual homes, it is not roads. If you go down South Nags Head, some of those cul-de-sacs, Loon Court, places like that, people couldn't get to their homes because of the sand that had been washed up. And I agree, you know, that's something that we really have to follow the science on. It's expensive and we have to be vigilant, but $100 million plus to do a whole coastline was absolutely insane.
I think that we're not going to outsmart Mother Nature, and we do need to follow the science, and we need to look closely at the study. But if we do decide we need to do beach nourishment, it needs to be paid for by special district tax. The mainland does not need to pay for it.
Well, I'm going to keep it short. I have seen the shoreline study. I was present for all 4 presentations. Our beaches in 3 of 4 areas are gaining sand, and as Mr. O'Neill said, the northeast taketh, the southwest bringeth, and I think you can't predict that. I think you can't predict hurricanes and all of that, but in no way should our mainland citizens, who do not get to dip into that occupancy tax like everybody thinks we do. There's a reason we have occupancy tax. There's federal grants, there's state grants. If we must shore up some sections, it should be paid by those sections that are impacted. Not everybody on the beach has access. Not everybody who lives in Corova has access to oceanfront homes. There's this misconception that everybody in Corova should pay for it. I don't think people in Corova should pay for it. Corova's not under threat. I think the homes that are threatened, that needs to be the special district. Those houses should be identified, and that's who should pay for it.
Natalie, it's the final question. Yay! Because you're freezing, I can tell.
It's emotionally, Sam.
Somebody's going to fill in.
Thank you.
So yeah.
I'm not thinking.
Since Shay is not here, Selena's not going to get. He's not going to be able to answer for Selena. So I'm going to have to figure that out. What's one positive thing you can say about your opponent?
She's very smart.
Okay. Good. Yep.
She's a hard worker.
All right.
He has a lot of great ideas. Why don't you ask one of my commissioner's friends to say something positive about me if they can?
Yeah. Owen or Paul? Who wants to take it?
She's passionate.
Passionate. Okay.
He's very nice, and he's a hard worker.
Janet sincerely loves Currituck County.
One word, or does it matter?
Keep it short.
I have to say, I feel like everybody's really gotten along, and I've already talked to Tony when I first met him. I really like him. I feel like we are going to work together. Regardless who wins, it's going to be tough, but I really like Tony, and I think we're going to become pretty good friends, and his wife is really sweet too. That's what I have to say.
Rhonda has been very dedicated to this process, and I think she's very dedicated to the county.
Well, actually, Mike and I have worked together as commissioners on the COA Board of Trustees, and we've become friends. And actually, Mike and I had a talk before we started the campaigns, and we agreed that we were going to stick to the issues, and we've done so, and so he's my friend.
Paul told me from day one, we don't have to agree, but we have to work together. And I remember that heavily. And I'll tell you what, you don't have to agree, but you do have to work together. And I'm thankful for that, because he taught me to say, stand in your own 2 lanes when it comes to being a politician, and keep your hands out of somebody else's pockets.
Yeah.
So the other 2 questions I was going to ask, you're not going to answer them, because one was, if you're going to cut taxes, what services are you going to cut? Think about that. I think there might be something just to kind of throw out there on your socials if you feel like it. The other one is about outdoor basketball courts and other recreational opportunities besides free play, and the ability to go and use the facilities that are not able to be used unless it's organized. Those are the things. No, you're not answering it now. I didn't know those socials.
Coach, what's basketball?
Oh, as a lacrosse official, what's baseball? So there you go. Yeah. Thank y'all so much for sticking it out tonight. I really appreciate y'all coming. Thank you so much for those that have already signed up and supporting SamWalkerOBXNews.com. If you haven't yet, please do so. It really means a lot. Make sure on the way home, download the podcast, the Sam and M podcast, and do one episode. Thank y'all so much, and good luck.
Thanks again to all the candidates for participating. John Wright at Sanctuary Vineyards. And thank you for watching here at SamWalkerOBXNews.com.